Hey everyone, welcome to today's Explainer. So, when you hear alien invasion, what pops in your head? Probably the classic Hollywood stuff, right? Giant metallic saucers, green laser beams just absolutely obliterating cities, desperate battles for the survival of Earth, the whole shebang. But what if the biggest transformation in human history didn't kick off with a roar of fire, but with just a quiet, completely benevolent whisper? Today, we are diving into a really incredible sci-fi story called The Archivists of a Dying Light. It literally turns the entire idea of first contact on its head. We're going to look at a bloodless, completely peaceful invasion that changes humanity forever without a single weapon ever being fired.
Okay, let's dive into this. It brings us to this wild central paradox. What happens if an alien invasion is entirely peaceful but still completely dismantles our entire way of life? It kind of challenges everything we assume about conflict and survival, right? I mean, how does a silent arrival turn human civilization upside down? Well, as you'll see, it renders all our greatest defense systems totally useless simply by offering us everything we've ever wanted.
So, setting the scene for our timeline, Chapter 1, The Anomaly Approaches.
Picture this. At the Vera C. Rubin Observatory down in Chile, an astrophysicist named Dr. Ars Thorn is just staring at some routine data. Suddenly, he spots a massive Kuiper Belt object acting, well, really strangely. Now, this thing was originally cataloged as just a cold, dead asteroid way out there, roughly 40 astronomical units away. But it's doing something impossible. Thorne realizes he's looking at a truly terrifying number, negative 0.051 meters per second squared. Okay, in the vacuum of space, things do not just slow down, and they definitely don't decelerate at a constant, gentle rate like that unless some external force is putting on the brakes. There was no comet outgassing, no superheated plasma trail, nothing. This was a 100 million metric ton object performing a perfectly controlled braking maneuver. Just to put that into perspective, slowing down a mass that massive without brute force rocketry, that points to a level of engineering mastery that literally left the global scientific community absolutely breathless.
And the craziest part? This massive vessel didn't head for Earth's atmosphere. Instead, it made a beeline for the Earth-Moon L5 Lagrangian point. If you're not familiar, that's essentially a stable gravitational pocket in space, where an object can just park. It sits right there in perfect orbital resonance. Humanity quickly dubbed this vessel the Loom. And it wasn't some sleek chrome worship. No, it was a 20-kilometer-long ecosystem hollowed right out of primordial rock, all bound together by carbon nanotube rigging. It elegantly used the sun's magnetic field as a giant sail to just dump its kinetic energy, parking itself right in our cosmic backyard without firing a single shot.
Which brings us to a period of absolutely agonizing tension. Chapter 2, First Contact and Translation.
So for 3 full weeks, the Loom just sat there. I mean, imagine the global panic. Stock markets are fluctuating wildly, militaries are locking all their radar arrays onto L5, and the whole world is holding its breath. We were face to face with an intelligence capable of casually redirecting asteroids. But they didn't attack, and they didn't broadcast some booming, threatening message in English either. Instead, the entities inside the Loom, who we eventually started calling the Aun, did something brilliant. They used highly focused, low-energy terahertz lasers to establish an optical SETI dictionary. They transmitted the Peano axioms, the value of pi, Euler's number, and the fine structure constant. It's absolute genius when you think about it. They completely bypassed the messy complexities of human language and just built a dictionary based on the universal constants of physics and math. Basically, they were telling us, in the clearest way possible, hey, we exist in and understand the exact same universe that you do.
As our translation efforts got better, the Ozians started sharing details about their own biology. And this brilliantly illustrates why all our Hollywood fears were so completely misplaced. The Ozian are essentially a silicon-oxygen-boron matrix that relies on liquid methane to survive. They live in absolute freezing temperatures. We're talking between 35 and 110 Kelvin. Now contrast that with Earth. We're carbon-based, we rely on liquid water, we operate at a balmy 288 Kelvin, and we're bathed in highly reactive oxygen.
This biological mismatch actually led to the most incredible and honestly kind of humorous twist of the entire narrative. It's summed up perfectly by this quote from Dr. Elena Vance. To them, our planet is a hellscape of boiling acid. Literally, a single drop of liquid water would dissolve their skin. Earth's normal ambient temperature would instantly cook them. So overnight, the entire threat of a physical ground invasion just vanished. They quite literally could not set foot on Earth even if they wanted to, and they had absolutely zero desire to take our land or our resources. No way.
But make no mistake, the invasion was definitely happening. It was just an invasion of ideas. Welcome to Chapter 3, the post-scarcity shift.
Since the Onun didn't want our gold or our land, what did they actually do? Well, they bypassed every single government, military, and corporate patent system on Earth. They just dumped a massive, open-source library of fundamental physics directly into our research institutions, all at the exact same time. And the sheer practicality of this tech drop was staggering. The Onun didn't give us some magical warp drive that needed impossible exotic materials. Nope. They gave us aneutronic proton-boron fusion for limitless clean energy. They gave us high-temperature iron-based superconductors to fix our power grids and molecular sieve filtration for literally infinite clean water. The best part? The schematics were designed to be built immediately using Earth's existing industrial infrastructure. It was so practical that within just 18 months, a prototype fusion reactor in Munich was already churning out gigawatts of power using everyday household borax.
So, the crucial point is, this incredibly benevolent gift caused an instantaneous and profound economic shockwave. The old paradigm, the one based on fossil fuels, resource scarcity, and traditional labor, it basically collapsed almost overnight. We abruptly entered this totally new era of limitless fusion energy, automated abundance, and universal basic assets. Nations that relied entirely on hydrocarbon exports went into absolute freefall. The Omen had effectively performed a bloodless coup. They threw humanity a life jacket to save us from climate collapse, but that life jacket was so incredibly heavy that it drowned our traditional institutions, plunging us directly into a post-scarcity society.
Let's fast forward a bit to year 4 of the arrival, which brings us to Chapter 4, the Great Census.
By this point, the OSIN had finally constructed these massive, vacuum-sealed, shallow water laboratories in lunar orbit. So, for the very first time, human scientists, decked out in heavily insulated cryogenic hazard suits, of course, were actually able to interact with the OSIN face-to-face, right through thick sapphire glass. And it was here that humanity finally got to ask the big question. What do the OSIN actually want in return for giving us this literal utopia? Reflecting on this strange new reality, Dr. R.S. Thorne wrote this incredibly poignant and honestly kind of chilling thought in his journal. They are domesticating us, like wolves into dogs. The realization was just profound. The OSIN didn't pacify humanity with laser cannons. They pacified us simply by removing the evolutionary pressures that made us violent, territorial, and competitive in the first place. By giving us completely free energy and endless water, they instantly removed the very things we fought wars over. They didn't train us with a whip. They trained us with treats.
Inside that freezing lunar lab, the Orin finally revealed their true motive to Dr. Thorne. They told him, "We are the archivists. You are a flare in the dark." The Orin weren't galactic conquerors. They weren't even saviors trying to recruit us into some big sci-fi federation. They basically looked at liquid water, carbon-based biospheres, and saw them as incredibly rare but fundamentally unstable. To them, we were doomed to rapid mutation and systemic collapse. So, they traveled the galaxy specifically to collect the genetic and cultural records of these fleeting civilizations before they burn out. They gave us all that world-saving technology simply to stabilize our planet long enough for them to finish their backup.
Chapter 5, the ontological shock.
Let's move to the timeline and see how this builds, because when this news finally reached Earth, humanity didn't react with anger. Actually, we reacted with this deep existential weariness. The whole myth of human exceptionalism just kind of withered away. We realized we weren't destined to be the main characters of the universe, bravely colonizing the stars. We were really just a beautiful, fragile species of wildflower being pressed into a giant cosmic scrapbook. The On were essentially like adults visiting a playground, right? Just taking photographs of a child's sandcastle before the inevitable tide comes in to wash it all away. But this realization built the foundation for the next phase of human history, the compilation of the Great Archive. By year 10, our material crises were completely solved. So, for the next 2 decades, without the constant grinding pressure of survival, the arts and ecological restoration just flourished. We replanted the Amazon, we cleaned the oceans, and we digitized every single song, painting, and genome on the planet. By year 32, this massive archive was uploaded to the On. And finally, in year 36, having fully collected our memory, the Loom silently unfurled its magnetic sails and departed for the star Gliese 581.
The departure of the Aeon left humanity on a pristine, beautifully restored Earth. But now, we were looking up at the stars not as conquerors, but as curators. And it leaves us with a truly provocative question, one that I think applies to all of us right now. If survival was no longer a struggle, how would you tend to your garden?
I mean, if all your material needs were suddenly met forever, what would you create? What legacy would you want archived? This story really challenges us to stop fighting over the sandbox and start building something beautiful enough to be remembered in the cold, vast library of the universe.
Please like and subscribe.